In today's video, I'm going to talk about how to build a yield farming portfolio on the Base chain. Base is the new Ethereum scaling solution developed by Coinbase and as a new and fast-growing chain. It has a lot of very solid yield opportunities right now. Some of these pools are offering 5, 10, 20% APR on crypto, and some of them are even offering higher if you're willing to go into riskier pools. In today's video, I'll talk about how I would go about building a portfolio on this chain while managing my risk and still taking advantage of some of these nice yields. Welcome back to Dynamo DeFi. My name is Patrick. As a reminder, nothing in this video is financial advice. This is purely for educational purposes, and the sample portfolio that I'll talk about building in this video is something that would fit my risk tolerance if I wanted to build a portfolio on this chain. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's right for you, so you should still do your own research and be aware that with cryptocurrency, anything is risky, especially any new protocols and chains. With that being said, let's get into the video. To start, the first thing that you'll need to do is actually get some funds over onto Base. ETH, like on Ethereum, is the currency that you'll need to pay for transaction fees on Base. And I have another video about how exactly to bridge ETH over to Base. So I'll link that down in the description, but make sure you do that before you try to create a yield farming portfolio. And as a quick refresher, Base is Coinbase's new layer 2. That's a big bet they're making, and it functions very similar to Ethereum if you used Ethereum before, except that it's much cheaper and much faster. But any applications you build on Ethereum can also easily be ported over to Base, and many of them have already done that. And you can see here on their website that their goal is to make Ethereum accessible to everyone, and of course it is built by Coinbase. Quick, before we get started, a framework for how exactly we'll go about earning yield in this video. Here is my How to Yield Farm in 2023 framework from Dynamo DeFi Substack. And there's 4 main sources of yield that you could look at in 2023. There's some others in crypto as well, but these are the main ones. There's staking, that would be like Ethereum staking. We're not really going to use that in this video because Base is a layer 2, so staking wouldn't be so relevant. There's lending tokens, so you can lend out tokens in exchange for interest payments or rewards. There may be some opportunities for that, but generally those rates aren't as good right now, especially in comparison to some of the rates that you can get outside of crypto with things like treasuries or money market accounts at the moment. Then we'll talk about liquidity pools and liquidity mining. This is going to really be the bread and butter of what we're doing on Base, and this is probably going to be truthfully all or most of the strategies that I would go for today. And that's basically for decentralized exchanges. You can deposit funds into the liquidity pool on the exchange, and you are acting as a market maker in exchange for fees that are earned from people swapping on the exchange. And oftentimes, to bootstrap new liquidity, protocols offer additional incentives. And so that's where you get the really nice rewards as protocols are distributing tokens to offer incentives. And the thing that I know people always say here, they say, well, you know, that can't last forever, right? Because they're incentivizing liquidity. But you know, I'm not planning on staying in this pool forever. I'm planning on staying in the pool for as long as I can earn the rewards. And then once the rewards dry up, I'll go elsewhere. And apologies if that's a bit mercenary, but that's the way to do it in this sort of market. So liquidity pools we'll be using. And then the fourth one is option strategies. Those are things such as covered calls. And we're not going to really be covering that in this video either, simply because it's a bit more complicated. And I think that most people aren't really prepared without further research to execute these. Maybe in a future video I'll talk about exactly how to do these in detail, but it's too complicated for a short video like this. I also have some resources here. We'll be going through some of these in more detail, especially the DefiLlama yield farms to filter and find yield farms. And then let's talk a bit about the process, and then we'll actually get into the good stuff, because I know some people, you want to get to the good stuff. So the exact process, what we're going to look for is we're going to find tokens that we want exposure to. And in the Base ecosystem, the tokens that we want exposure to. First, ETH. If you are allocating heavily to the Base ecosystem, you're basically betting on Ethereum. And if you have ETH and you want to bring it over to Base, it's probably because there's higher yields on Base than on Ethereum mainnet. So we want some ETH because it's important in the ecosystem. And then we want exposure to at least one, preferably more major tokens that are associated with the ecosystem. And the reason for that, I say we, in this case, I really mean me. If I'm bullish on Base, right, then if Base does well, I want to capture some upside from that. I want my portfolio to grow with Base. And the way that my portfolio would grow with Base is if I have some exposure to projects that are building infrastructure for Base. And in this case, infrastructure could be an exchange. It could be a platform. We'll talk about a social finance platform on Base that many of you may have heard of in this video. Or it could be some other sort of killer application that's driving a lot of people and a lot of activity to the Base ecosystem. But we want to have at least one of those flagship applications of Base, and then that's really gonna be the crux of our portfolio. And then what we want to do is we want to find liquidity pools where the interest rate outweighs the risk of impermanent loss or smart contract risk. Right? It's all about probabilities here. And then as far as our portfolio allocation, we have three main goals. We want exposure to the entire ecosystem. So that's going to be our core ecosystem tokens. It's a bit harder with Base than something like Solana, where you could just buy Sol, but we're going to get exposure to the ecosystem. We want some exposure to ecosystem tokens. In Base, these points 1 and 2 are kind of wrapped up. And then we want to make sure we're taking advantage of yield and airdrop opportunities within key applications of this ecosystem. So the main reason to be on one of these fast growing chains is that there's more opportunities. And I say yield and airdrop because these things are often interlinked. And I know airdrops have kind of fallen out of favor, but for example, one of the applications we're going to talk about today, friendtech, has a point system that you accrue by depositing ETH into the app and using the app. And to me, that's really a hybrid between yield farming and airdrops, because yes, you're not earning yield right away, but you're accruing points, which are presumably for a future airdrop. And so you're basically earning yield. You're earning deferred yield that you'll receive in the future. So airdrops, I really think of that as deferred yield. And in most of the most successful airdrops I've gotten in the past, it basically functioned as that. It was where you were kind of pre-farming a token before it was available. So we're going to consider those to be kind of the same. All right, so that is our framework, and that is important. So let's talk about the applications we're going to use today. The main ones are going to be Aerodrome. Aerodrome is the largest DEX on Base, and so it has a lot of the best rates. It has the deepest liquidity, and generally going for the largest DEX is a great way to get exposure to the overall ecosystem. Largest DEX used to be Base Swap, now it's Aerodrome. So I'm going to go with Aerodrome in this video, and we're going to use that for both a lot of our pools for ETH as well as I'm going to want some exposure to Aerodrome as a DEX. Second application that I like that we're going to go for is friendtech. This is the flagship social fi applications on Base. Technically, there's no way to earn yield right now. However, you can flip and trade keys. But I think there's going to be an airdrop in the future, and they even have an airdrop tab. So we're going to definitely make some allocation towards friendtech. And by the way, if you want more detailed tutorial on how to use friendtech, I have another video on that I'll drop in the description as well. If you have no familiarity at all with what friendtech is, basically influencers or content creators can connect their Twitter accounts to it, and then you can buy and sell keys that give you access to a private chat room with that creator. So it's kind of a new primitive that lets you flip these keys. And then when you trade the keys, you pay a transaction fee that goes to the creator. So the creators earn money, and if you, in theory, buy a key to a creator and they become more popular, you also make money. So imagine if you had bought a key for Mr. Beast 7 years ago, then that key would probably be pretty valuable right now. You would have made out well. So we're going to want some exposure to friendtech. And then these next two are Beefy and Curve. Those aren't Base-specific applications, but they're applications that have pretty good opportunities on Base. So we're going to use those to find some pools as well. And Beefy specifically, if we look at it on Base, then we can see that this is a good way to find yield pools. So we're gonna use Beefy pretty heavily. All right, so let's start finding some pools now. Abraham Lincoln said that if he had 6 hours to cut down a tree, he would spend the first 4 sharpening his axe. Well, our axe is sharp now, so let's start using it. Let's find some good yield pools. And the first thing that we want is we're gonna find some pools that give us good yield on ETH, maybe paired with a stablecoin or maybe just straight ETH. And the places we're going to look for that are first on DefiLlama and then also on Beefy. Beefy is a great resource, like I mentioned a second ago. So here on DefiLlama, I already have it filtered to Base. And again, the link to this here in this document. And so first thing we want to do is we want to change the attribute to no impermanent loss. And you can see it's not filtered to ETH yet, but at least now we no longer have pools that are like ETH paired with meme coin, for example, because that's not really what we're looking for at this moment. At least I'm not. And so we want something that's just going to be straight ETH. And right now I have it filtered by TVL. More liquidity doesn't always mean safer, but generally it's a good bet. And notice there's no Aerodrome here, so we may not find what we're looking for. But in order to be worthwhile on Base, because of the elevated risk of going to a new chain, as well as the hassle and the risk of using a, most of the time, new protocol, 5% is not really going to cut it for me. You could get that just with staking. That's not going to do it. 10%, maybe I could be persuaded. I'm really looking for more like 15%, I'm going to say, to be worthwhile on this. I know that's a tall order in this market, but you know, like this one here, no disrespect to Balancer, 0.19%. Yeah, I'm not going to waste my time. Even 6% is all right, but 4.8%, no, I'd rather just stake ETH regular. So let's see if we can find some good stuff. I'm going to filter the APY here, and I'm going to do a minimum of 10. And then I don't see anything for ETH. And I don't see anything for ETH on here. All right, so this one, big whiff on that. Let's see if we can find some stuff on Beefy now. So Beefy, we're going to sort by TVL. And okay, 2.8%. Not really, no. Let's see. Let's search for ETH and see if we can find anything. And you can see I'm doing some of this stuff live, right? Because I want you guys to see how the process works. All right, so ETH USD BC, that's all right. Try crypto. I'm liking that. So Try Crypto is going to be a stable coin, BTC, and ETH. Let's click into this. So this one is 33, give or take percent. Curve USD, so the Curve stable coin, TBTC, so a wrapped version of BTC, and then wrapped ETH. Okay, this is pretty interesting, right? Because now we've got the two main blue chips in crypto with some volatility muted because of a stable coin, and we're earning 13.37%, and it's on one of the largest, I would say, most reputable crypto protocols, and that's Curve. And the APY, if we look, it's been pretty consistent. It's dipped recently, but we're fine with dips, right? Because that means that looks like it's been 15 to 20% for the better part of a month now. All right, I'm liking the Try Crypto pool. I'm going to tentatively say that that's probably going to be one that we go with. But let's see what else is available here. We've got, we're getting to $50,000. Not really loving that. Let's look at Aerodrome now. So Aerodrome is interesting. It's a fork of Solidly. If we see wrapped ETH paired with USD BC for 8.07%. That's all right. But, again, we're really looking for more than 10%. ETH paired with DAI for 5.05%. Man, I mean, this market is just dry for yield, isn't it? Let's sort by APR and see if anything more interesting comes up. Nothing there. Incentivized. Okay, so now we've got the incentivized pool. And some of these might be more interesting. So this one here, we've got Arrow, and we've got ETH Arrow. Okay, so this is very interesting because Arrow is going to be the token for Aerodrome. ETH, wrapped ETH with Arrow is 175%. More or less. But wrapped ETH Arrow, I'm going to say, okay, that's looking pretty good. That's something that we would want in our portfolio. So now we've got wrapped ETH Arrow. That's going to be probably the main Aerodrome pool because that's 170%. And the thing here, keep in mind, the reason that this rate is so high, okay? I don't know how much clearer I can say this. The reason that the rate on this wrapped ETH Arrow pool is 175% is because it's highly inflationary, right? That's because they're printing Arrow to incentivize all these pools that you see here, and a lot of that is going towards the wrapped ETH Arrow pool. However, it's important to note that the way to view this is not as, I'm gaining 175% interest and it's going to be, whatever crazy APY if you extend that out over a year. No. The way to view this is my share of the total Arrow market cap is growing. And the reason that it's growing is because because if you take these rewards and then you restake them, then you're compounding your interest into this pool, whereas so your share should increase faster than the inflation. And so that's the way to view it, right? And so this is the interest is good, but really the bet here is if Base does well, Aerodrome will do well. So you would never go into this pool unless you had already developed a very strong conviction in Base and in Aerodrome. But in this exercise, I'm going to say if I believe in the success of Base, I'm going to want some exposure to the main decentralized exchange. So I'm going to go into this pool for 175%. And then I'm going to go into this Try Crypto pool for 13.37%. So I've got some good exposure to ETH yield on Base. I've got some exposure to the main DEX on Base. And then the final thing that I would do is I would deposit some ETH into friendtech. Friendtech is the leading application on Base. It has by far the most transactions and users of any application on Base. And so what I would do is I would deposit some ETH into there, buy some keys with the expectation that eventually I'll receive an airdrop. And I really think that's all that I would need to do. If you really wanted to get adventurous, you could investigate some of these smaller dexes that you see here on DefiLlama, see if you can find some good yields on them, or maybe you find one that you think could take over Aerodrome. But I would really keep it simple just with those three pools if I were building this portfolio. And that's how I would go about building a yield farming portfolio on Base. If you want more videos like this, be sure to like and subscribe. And until next time, this is Dynamo DeFi.